to be honest with you, could be a 2-hour course. I think we're doing that separately later on as a sort of 1-hour course. I'm trying to give you a feel for how much we're going to be cramming in. Email marketing, content marketing, which is about selling to people less and trying to give them useful information. And I'll just touch on Facebook advertising as we go through. What we're not covering in masses of detail is social media. There's a separate course for that, but I will put it in context as where it appears as part of a strategy. So from my perspective, digital marketing is much more than social media. I would imagine a lot of you are out there who are starting your business. People on this session are doing social media. It's what people do first of all. They go on Instagram, go on Twitter, Facebook, or whatever you use. Maybe your friend's daughter said that TikTok's brilliant, you've got to get on it. But the thing is, a lot of people ignore other things. If you look at the bottom there, email marketing. I don't know how many of you are doing email marketing, very often overlooked. And yet, when we look at traffic arriving at a website, email marketing usually performs as one of the best, and Facebook is one of the worst. So you may be getting messages from people and ordering from Facebook, but ultimately, as a conversion tool to your website, email marketing is one of the most successful. I worked with a grower last week who wasn't really doing email marketing at all and just sort of ignored it, and is now totally hooked on it because it's bringing in a lot of sales. So the whole point is you need to have a wider plan of what you're going to do as well as social media, whether it's search engines, whether it's paid advertising, whether it's email marketing or whatever. So this strategy is one that we developed ourselves. It's not out of a university. It's not from a textbook. It's a practical way of looking at a digital marketing strategy for small businesses. Rather than having a long document, it's more pragmatic. And what I'm going to do is just explain to you how this works and how you could apply this to your business, and then dig into some more of the details as we go through. The most important thing to realize is that you need to have a website. If you haven't got a website, I don't know what all of you do so far. I've got a couple of flower growers so far, but cut flower growing. But basically, I know social media, people will stumble across what you do on social media. If they're searching for something, it's websites that are going to come up in the results. So you need to have a website. It's not going to be social media that come up in search engine results. That's what I'm trying to say. The website needs to be look pretty, look good, look professional. It's how people will judge you in the first place. First impressions last. In that, your website is where your products, services will be listed, where your photos, your information, your contact form. People will message you on social, but actually you'll get more information through contact forms. And ultimately, if you sell online in any way, that is where the transaction is going to take place. People do message to buy on Facebook, but then it's a bit of a pain. You've also got Facebook shops, but I maintain that people do not go on social media to buy products. They go on there to be entertained, have a nice time, see what their friends are up to, see how many likes they've got, and that sort of thing. So you need to have a website. Before you do any kind of marketing at all, digital marketing, you need to have a bit of a benchmark of where you are now. So you need to measure how successful your website is now. Just looking at Debbie's asked a question there, you've got a contact form on your website, but it was getting spam. You can have a thing called a capture. Google do one as well, which shouldn't be too hard to implement. So you have a capture image which people have to type in. You're always going to get some, but that should filter out a lot of it. So it's a case of speaking to your web developer or looking at what system you use and having that capture. That will stop a lot of it. So I'm looking at, when I work with a client, or if I work with any of you guys on sort of one-to-ones, I'm not really interested in how many social media followers you've got, whether you've got 1,000 or 2,000, it doesn't really make any difference in terms of business. I will look at email subscribers, so you should be benchmarking how many email subscribers you've got so far. How many inquiries are you getting and sales are you getting? The point is here, we're trying to see when you go out and do a digital marketing strategy, has it made a difference or not? And ultimately, sales or inquiries are what you want. The main thing you should be looking at is your website, which is how many visitors you get into it, where they're coming from, how are you acquiring those visitors? What are they doing when they're on your site? Which pages are they leaving on? What's your conversion rate? Sounds technical, but in other words, if 100 people land on your website, what percentage of them are actually buying or booking or doing what you want them to do. So measurement is the first step before you do anything. Then you look to improve your website as much as you can. Make it faster, make it more intuitive to use. Every time you make people think when they're on your website, you lose a percentage of people. And if people are landing on your site and having to click around and the menus disappeared when they're on a mobile, for example, you will lose a percentage of people. Is there enough content on there? Does it do what you want to do? Can people order online? Is that what they want to do these days? Have you got strong calls to action? When you land on the homepage, are there 3 or 4 very obvious things that you need to do so they know where to go? What's your bounce rate? How many people land on your website and disappear straight away? Usually it's about half, but if you get that down by making your website more attractive and easier to move around, then you will reduce that and get more business. So measure what's happening, improve your website. It's the same with a physical shop. You wouldn't open a physical shop if everything was a mess and it was hard to get around and you couldn't find the things that you wanted to find. So improve the website. Only once you've measured everything and you've improved the website as much as you can do you start looking at promoting it, which annoys some people because they want to go straight into social media, but you need to get those things in place first. So social media adverts, your offline stuff, leaflets, adverts, brochures, paid advertising on Google, which I don't know whether any of you have tried, but that works for some companies. It depends. You have to try it, but measure whether it's worked. Search engine optimization, very often overlooked. Most companies I see are not doing it properly, and yet it can bring you free traffic in over and over again. When you've done all that activity, whether it's social media or advertising or whatever you've done, and you've got people to your website, you need to bear in mind that half of them are going to bounce. In other words, they're going to do nothing. Most of the rest of them are going to have a look around, but then also do nothing. And you're going to get 1 or 2% of people that are actually going to do what you want them to do, which is to contact you or buy from you. And that's where you need to engage them. And the couple of ways you can do that, one is to put a Facebook pixel on your website. And remember I said to you at the beginning that if some of this seems too advanced, then just bear it in mind and get what you can from this session. But a Facebook pixel, once that's on your website, means you can do remarketing. So when people have been to your website, haven't bought from you or haven't inquired from you, you can then follow them around with an advert. And that's a really powerful way of bringing people back. And the adverts we generally recommend spending on that is £1 per day. No more than that. It works for Instagram as well. Ultimately, you need to be trying to capture people, capture people's email address. And you shouldn't do that by just having a thing on your website which says, sign up to my newsletter, because very few people will actually do that. You need to have, you need to incentivize them in some way by giving them either a discount voucher or by giving them a guide on how to do something, some information that they want. And so in other words, they give you their email address, and then in return for that, they get some money off or they get some free information. And you should be using something like a pop-up to do that. So I'm just going to, hopefully you can still, can everyone see the black screen at the moment? If you can't, drop it in the chat, because sometimes I share the window rather than the screen. But basically, for example, if I show you this one, Agritel, this is not a grower. There's a reason for that. I agree. So you should be able to see this now. If you can't, then I've done the screen sharing wrong. Basically, pop-ups work. All of you on this course will hate pop-ups. I understand that, and I hate them too. But if one came up now, it'd be really annoying. But imagine I browse around your website and then I went to leave. So my mouse is here now. When I go to leave, that is when a pop-up should trigger. And of course, today of all days, it hasn't done it. Let me try again. Okay, so it's not doing it today, probably because I closed it the other day. But basically, I'm talking about exit intent pop-ups. And then that can pop up when you go to leave. Now, when that happens, if it's part of a checkout process, we'll tend to get 40 or 50% of people actually signing up at that stage. So it really is powerful, and that builds your list. MailChimp do pop-ups, but they have to come up with exit intent. Then once you've built that list, you think about your potential customers, 100 of your potential customers. And if you went out to them today and said, do you want to buy my product or do you want to have my services? Most of them will say, no, not today. And yet the trouble is with marketing, what we do a lot of the time is blast out messages to people saying, come and buy my product, get it today, it's 10% off or whatever. Whereas what you should actually do is create useful, interesting content that answers people's questions that you then drip feed out over a period of time, which could be years, on your social media, on your email, so that when those people are ready, they think of you. And that's what we call content marketing, which I'm going to come on to later on. And then ultimately, it's about converting those people. And it could just be the words you use on your site. So it could be whether it's add to basket or buy now. It could be whether you put the word beautiful flowers in there rather than flowers. The different words you use will make a difference. You can do loads of analysis on where people go around your website, which is something I often do when I'm doing the one-to-ones, and try and identify where people are leaving on the exit pages. If we know where they are, then we can try and do something about those pages to bring people back on. And then basically you measure everything that you've done and see what's worked, and then do more of what's worked. It's like the 80-20 principle, that 20% of your marketing activity will bring in 80% of the results. As you'll see, I'm quite happy to whitter away until the end of the session. So if you do have a question, just interrupt me. But I'm going to dig a little bit into the measurement side of things now and go and talk over some of the things that I've basically just discussed. So you need to know whether what you're doing is working. If you're getting less business, is it because your website is getting fewer visits? Maybe you've done a bit of a promotion on social or email or whatever. Is it bringing people to your website? What are they doing on there? And so many people don't even check that. If you're doing like 4 or 5 social media platforms and occasionally you're linking to your website, wouldn't it be good to know which of those social media platforms link to your website? I'm not going to talk about it in any detail at all, but for example, Pinterest, you will find as a social media platform is quite good at getting traffic to your website, and actually is low maintenance. So you can look at it and see whether it's working or not. You've got to the top of the search engines maybe because you're typing in a certain phrase. Maybe it's flowers in your area. Sorry for talking about flowers. It's just the only 2 examples I've got in my list at the moment. But you've only, so you're managing to get to the top. But is that translating into website visitors? And what are those website visitors doing? And your analytics, your website analytics will tell you that. So how many people are visiting your site, what they like and they don't like. And this is probably the one place I'm going to show you quickly today is your which of your online marketing methods are working. Very important. So we recommend you use Google Analytics. You may have it on your website already. Maybe you haven't got a website yet, and that's fine. But when you do, you need to get Google Analytics installed. It's totally free. And that will give you massive information. A web developer wouldn't charge much to install that either. This slide here is just for your reference, basically on how to get Google Analytics. But what I'm going to do is actually just dig into Google Analytics quickly and show you the sort of thing you can get on there without going into loads of detail. Because although it's an hour, it's a relatively short session. So within here, this is a company. I'll just zoom in a little bit in case I reveal anything else, because this has been recorded. This is a company. They're not in this horticulture sector at all, and I can't do that because I might reveal the name, and only certain people let me show them in public. But this gives me basic information about the numbers of users, the number of sessions, number of pages viewed, the number of pages per session, how long are they on the site, 1 minute 28, and what the bounce rate is. The bounce rate is when people go onto a website and then leave. So in other words, they look at one page and then they're gone. You can then, if you want to, change this and compare it to the previous period. So this then shows me that red is good, sorry, red is bad, green is good. However, so it looks like it's going downhill, and maybe it is, but actually Every single business is seasonal in some way. All of your businesses will be seasonal in some way. So what you can do is compare it to the previous year. And this looks like it's even worse, but I know with this company, these were like actually spam visits on these days. So there were a lot of people on those spikes. Overall, sales are up on this company. But comparing year on year is quite important. The main place to look on here, if you're not going to look anywhere else, is this one here. Acquisition, all traffic, channels. Within here then, and I'll just take off that compared to the past because it makes things look really busy. Within here, you can look at how many visits are coming from the different things that you're doing. If it is social media, then you can even click into social and see which social network is bringing you the visits. This one is paid search, that's paid advertising. Organic search is people searching on Google. Direct is, a lot of that is people typing it in directly onto their browser or from a bookmark. Social we talked about. Referral is other websites leading traffic through. Other is Facebook remarketing in this instance. Email, this company doesn't really do, despite my advice. They haven't really got much of an email list. Now, over on the right-hand side, I can see how many people bought from the different things that I did. And even if you don't sell online, because not everyone does, not the majority of businesses don't, then you can also look at, did people spend 5 minutes on the website? These are all things you can set up within Google Analytics. So then I get to look at my traffic that I'm getting in and seeing which of the things I'm doing is bringing people into the site and bringing good traffic. So without knowing this, you really are flying blind with your marketing. Another little report. Once you get Google Analytics, you can browse around yourself, but behavior, site content, exit pages. So within here, this tells us which pages have been looked at more often. So it's not just the home page, which is this one, it's other pages. And it then tells me the likelihood that somebody is going to leave on that page. So I can start to look for the pages on here and find out what the worst exit rates are. In other words, the pages that people don't like. And then I can start to work on those, tweak them, change them, see if there's a problem with them. Maybe it's a prices page, maybe it's information about a certain product, but it helps me understand where the leaky holes are on my website, and I can try and plug them in. Every time we manage to look at that with a client, we will learn things about how people are navigating around your site. So there's so much more in Google Analytics, but those are the key things that I would use to measure performance. One little website I just throw in here for you to play with afterwards is Google Trends. I tend to put it on most courses. So Google Trends is you just literally type in Google Trends. And then I'm going to change it to the United Kingdom. And then you might put, for example, cut flowers. Again, I'm just going on the flowers. That's all that I've got in my chat at the moment. And I'm just going to change the time period to 2019. So this shows me in 2019 when people search for cut flowers. So I learned two things from this. One, I learned that this is how my stats might look over the year. It's going to go up and down. But also, this is when people are searching for that phrase. So that helps you understand where the peaks are in your business in terms of people's desire to have your products. So you can potentially send emails out at that time. You can focus a Facebook campaign or a social media campaign at that time. And if you go down, it's sort of like wedding flowers. When people are planning a wedding, there's always, I'm assuming at least one of you hopefully does weddings. There's a certain time when people are looking for different aspects of a wedding. So you can see here at the end of the year, everyone's given up on looking for wedding flowers A, because they're not getting married, or B, because they're thinking we'll sort it out next year. And yet we're right back here, that is in the new year, that's when people are saying, right, okay, we need to sort the wedding flowers out. And then for those first 2 weeks, so I'd look at this and say, right, okay, we need some major activity going on promoting that at that time of year. And then we might sort of pick it up a little bit later. These are the people who had forgotten all about it and it was last minute. So you see the theme. So we've got the holiday times as well. Anyway, that's Google Trends, slight aside there, but it's really useful little site to look at. I think it is anyway. So next section, remember, interrupt, move, chat if you've got any questions. You need to look at improving your website to increase those conversion rates. So this is about, rather than trying to get more and more visitors to your website, which is what people normally ask for, it's about getting for higher conversion rates. In simple terms, it means just getting more people to do what you want them to do on your website. You need to decide, I'm sure I've got a slide on it here. No, I've cut it. What do you want people to do on your website when they land on there? If you just think about that and say, it will just be a revelation to you, for some people anyway. So rather than having your website all just laid out and pretty and to navigate, you think, what do I want them to do? Question one. Second thing is there anything I can change on my website to make it slightly easier for people to get there? And you keep focusing on that, and then that will improve the performance of your site. And the logic of it is that if you decide what that successful visit is. If you've got 1,000 visitors and 1% of people doing what you want them to do, that will give you 10 conversions. If you wanted to get 20, then I just thought the course was over then. The course is not over, just to let you know. Just so you might see what's in the chat. We've got another half an hour or so to go. So to increase to 20 conversions, double the visitors to 2,000, or increase your conversion rate for 2%. Even if you manage to get a fractional change, tiny little tweak on your website to get it to 0.1% change, then you will get 10% increase in business. So it's really important to take a good, hard, honest look at your site and see what you can do to change it. If anyone's got websites that they want me to look at very briefly on it, if there's loads, I won't be able to do them all, but if there's a few of them, I will be able to. If you want to just drop them in the chat, just to give me examples to look at for a couple of things, that would be really useful. But basically, a few things you should do, I'll look at that from a critique point of view and also from a usability point of view and from a search engine point of view, keywords and stuff. But basically, your website needs to be fast, needs to be quick. 1 second delay there in your download speed could result in 7% fewer conversions. Good, so I've got one already. Thank you for that, Debbie. So 7% fewer conversions. So you should be making sure your website is fast. I'm glad you're feeling brave, because I'm going to pull your website up now. Let's hope it works. Great. Now, when I'm looking at this now, what I'm not saying is that there's anything fundamentally wrong with that. That's the first thing I'm going to say. I'm looking at it with a different mindset, which is there anything where we can squeeze a little bit more performance out of it? And the first thing I'm going to look at is the speed of it. Everyone else is waiting to see how nasty I am with yours, Debbie, before they give me yours. Theirs. So Google page speed is, again, free website. It's in your presentation, which I think you're going to get a copy of. And I'm going to analyze that. And this will give me a score out of 100. And the point is, there's 2 reasons why you want a faster site. 1 is so that more people use it and have a better time using it. And 2, it will affect your position in the search engines. Now, do not despair yet. It is red, which is negative from, obviously it's not a good sign from a mobile point of view, but Google is notoriously difficult to get a high score on mobile. So we're not going to worry about that. I'm going to guess 64 on a desktop, 57. So it's not horrendous, but there may be things that could be improved. So then you either copy this web address and give it to somebody who knows what they're talking about and say, please sort my website out, or you scroll down and look at it and see what can be done here. Now, the one thing here is reduce initial server response time, which actually is one of the things that will bring your score up quite a lot. You might think it's this, but it isn't. So this means that your server might be a bit slow, so it might be worth talking to your web developer. Another one here, properly sized images, about half a second it says there. So what this means is that there are certain images like this one, which are actually slightly too big for the size in which it's displayed. You see the size difference? So it says you can actually tweak that and make it the correct size, because and that will affect your page speed score. Images are normally one of the main things that I see giving a slow score. And there's a nice little website here called tinypng.com, so tinypng, where you can upload images and it will give them back to you compressed, if you haven't compressed them enough already. So even without resizing it, which is a separate thing, it'll compress it and make it smaller. So I'm going to try now and just drag this image into here. You'd be uploading it, but I'm just doing it this way. And just see what it does to it. So by using tinypng, it saves 75% of the file size. So even at the same size, it's 75% quicker to load and the same quality. So you'll be able to download that and then swap it around on your website. So page speed is really important. And I've had nobody else's website. And to be honest with you, I've got on my notes here, only look at 2 to 3 sites. Otherwise, I'll run out of time. So it may just be one. So when I'm looking at this, I'd look at the site and say, from a usability point of view, I'd start saying, what do you want me to do when I get on there? Now, obviously you want me to go to the Christmas gifts. So I'm going to click on that. But before I do, you'd look at this and say, is there anything about this image that would make me more likely to click? If this click here for Christmas gifts, maybe that if that was in red, if it was like in a brighter color, so that's where I know I'm supposed to go, maybe more people would click. This isn't doing anything for you. And remember, Debbie, I'm trying to be nasty, I'm trying to be constructive. I'm trying to be the most awkward website visitor. So I'm going to click on it, see where it goes. Okay, now as we go down a page, do these go anywhere? These, ideally, these you could do with going somewhere. I'm looking at this thinking, yeah, I want some of those. How do I order these? What's my step? What do I do? Or even these flower experiences, how do I do these? What I feel I'm lacking here is a call to action to go and do something. Gift voucher, yeah, great idea, I'll do a gift voucher. I'm clicking on it, it's not going anywhere. So I'd look at that and say, there must be a way that I can buy those. Hopefully you're screaming at the monitor telling me, but maybe it's to contact you. And if it is to contact you, then all throughout that section, you could be saying, contact me to order, contact me to order. The order that you've put things on a page will affect how often people click on it and look at it. So the stuff that's down here is going to get a lot less looked at than the stuff that's at the top. We like to think that people come to our website and browse through it all, but they don't. They end up looking at the top bit, seeing what they can do, and then leaving. Let me have a look at perfect gifts. See, this is the better thing, you see, contact me to place an order. I still think, and I think it was you about the contact form, I think you need a contact form. You just need to maybe do it with that capture on there. For me, so I can't click that, you see, to email you. I don't want to use Facebook. I don't want to ring you because I don't use the phone anymore because I'm lazy. And I want to click your email. I want to go to a contact form. And so I'm not saying people don't contact you, but what I'm saying is that if you had a contact form and made it easier, would more people do it? I think also in terms of the gifts that you had on here, there are various ways, without getting too off topic, that you could have things that enable people to buy things from your website without having an online sales website. Using things like PayPal Instant Commerce will enable you to just have a link on here to click and people order something without having to go through the ordering process. So what I'm trying to say is, and I've only had one website to look at, is that you look at your website and say, is there anything I can do? How can I tweak it? Think about the F shape, not an F-shaped shower seal, which I've already purchased now, so I don't know why I keep showing me that. F-shaped website reading. That's another one I show on most of my courses. People look at things in an F shape. So your important stuff needs to be in the red zones because people don't look at the right-hand stuff. This sort of lower right-hand corner. So I'll come back to this website in a second because you'll get some free search engine optimization advice now as well. So this is to show that the page speed is in the presentation, tiny PNG is in the presentation. With your content, keep it fresh and up to date. You should be updating your website at least once a month. Put customer comments on there. If you can't think of what else to say, just put a new customer comment on there every month. Sticky content. What this means is that you've got something on there that when people land on your website, straight away they know where they want to go. There's something for them to click on. They haven't got to think. Does your contact form work if you've got one? Does it work? When was the last time you got an inquiry? Test it. The fewer fields you have on that form, the better. The less thing you ask. Does your marketing fluff get in the way? Are you going on and on your homepage about what you used to do and now you're doing this and it's been a change for you and your dog's name is this and you've got 2 kids and whatever, whereas your customers are saying, what do you do and where do I get it? The backstory is important, but it sometimes can get in the way of people actually taking the action that you want them to take. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Ask yourself this: what would you consider a successful visit on your website to be? And then drive people to do it. Put text links within your main body text, nice big graphic buttons, create that hero menu, which is 3 or 4 options when they land on there to go to those sections. Undertake user testing. Get somebody who doesn't know your website to navigate around it and watch them go around and see how they don't go where they're supposed to go. Give them something to do to buy something or contact you or whatever. And that you'll learn a lot about your site. So that's about improving the usability. So we've covered measuring things, improving the website, just as you would do a physical shop. And now we're looking at a little bit of promotion. And my sort of health warning here is, as I said, that search engine optimization could be a 2-hour course. But you will learn something from this now, hopefully, he says confidently. Now, I'm going to show you something now. This is not, so this is an example, really explains quickly how search engine optimization works on a simple level. So this, you might think I've lost it, but here we go. This is Aberystwyth Milk Company. So when I search for Aberystwyth Milk Company, the thing that comes up is my own website, because we designed a logo for a milk company about a year or so ago. And we're above all sorts of other companies, Yale, Facebook, and whatever, BBC, for that particular phrase. And the reason is because we have included, by not by design, these words, Aberystwyth Milk Company, in various places on the site. And this shows up in Google. Now, this one here is the title tag. It's called the meta title. And it's different to change it depending on what website you're on. But if I show you that on the actual website, it also shows there. If you just look at the top of the page, that is your title tag. In addition, the web address itself has got Milk Company in it. The first sentence on the page says the Aberystwyth Milk Company. The Aberystwyth Milk Company. When we're actually on the page, we've got a heading there as well, saying the Aberystwyth Milk Company. Throughout our text, we're saying Aberystwyth Company, milk. Even the image, okay? If I show you the image, open the image in a new tab, the image is called Milk Company Web Visual. So what I'm trying to show you is that even without trying, because in March we had a lot, we only understood this, because in March when lockdown happened, we were getting inquiries about delivering people milk. This company has gone bust, unfortunately, and we don't sell milk. But then we had a look at it and understood why. So all I'm saying to you is, if you want to get found for a phrase, the initial basic step is include it in those key places, which is a refresher, this sort of meta title at the top, the heading on your page, the first sentence, and then talk about it a little bit more than it feels comfortable. So when you're reading it and thinking, well, that's a bit wordy, and the milk's in there too many times, or whatever your product is, when you feel slightly uncomfortable, then that's usually spot on. To be honest, that's my sort of guide. Now, before you do that, you should do keyword research. In fact, you must do keyword research. And again, on the one-to-one sessions, this is the sort of thing I do with clients to save you having to do it. Now, the thing we use for that is a thing called Google Keyword Planner. Google Keyword Planner. And it's part of Google Ads. So in order to get this, you do actually have to go in, set up an advertising campaign, put in your credit card, and then start the advertising campaign. Set a budget, £10 a day, whatever it is. And then you go in and do your keyword research, and then turn your advert off, and you won't have spent anything. But some people don't do this because they don't want to risk putting the credit card in, but you just turn the advert off. So when I'm in here, I can put in here, for example, let me just take some of your words here. So I'm going to put in here British flowers. I'm going to put in local flowers. Seasonal flowers. Okay, and then this tells me then, out of those 3 ones that I put in, how often people search for those phrases. So here we've got 2,400 for British flowers, which is much more than local flowers. Seasonal flowers is popular as well. So what you do with this information, and there are loads more words down here as well, is that you create a hit list, if you like, of your top 6 to 8 words for each page. And if you do wedding stuff, which I don't know whether anyone does, then on that page, you would talk about wedding flowers, wedding bouquets, local wedding flowers, I don't know, British wedding bouquet, or whatever it is. So you come up with those 6 to 8 words by doing this kind of research. And we're only looking at this number of searches that there are, seasonal plants, blah, 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 autumn wedding flowers. And then you use those words, and straight on your homepage, you would put in here, so yours says Nature's Posy, British seasonal flowers. Now, if I just go in here and put British seasonal flowers as a phrase, just to see what that gets on its own. So that gets 20 searches, which is not a lot, compared to British flowers together or local flowers. So as a phrase in your main section there, British seasonal flowers together is not the best way to have it. And also having your business name at the beginning of that title tag is not necessary, because there's other words you could be putting in there of your 6 to 8 words that you should put in. This here, this is your heading text. So I think this could be improved, because as we know, it's perfectly optimized for British seasonal flowers, which only has 2 searches a month on average, 20 searches a month on average. So that could be refined. There's not enough text on here. There needs to be at least 500 words per page, which yeah, is a lot of writing, and it's for the search engines. It's not for people to read. So down here, you can have a lot of text. And then every single page, you look at it again and say, right, what is my title tag? Could this be tweaked to be better? Is that what people are looking for? Do I need to put the word British in there? And then you look at your text and say, right, if people are looking for bouquets, then how many times do I mention that within here? It's in there once. And how often is it in there? And I'm not going to count it while I'm talking, but you see what I'm trying to say? You need to talk more about what you do over and over again. Your images. Let me have a look at this. Right click, open it in a new tab. So this says size comparison of bouquet versus posy, which isn't bad. At least it's got a little bit of flower stuff in there, but it's good from a disability point of view, but it could potentially be more focused, the actual name of the image. Just while I'm looking at that, I think that's too big for the space as well. Opening a new tab. That is the size of that image. So it needs to be reduced in size in terms of the number of pixels. So it is instead that size, just to help with speed. Loads more text on here, which is great. But you need to talk more about what you do. And I know hopefully it's useful, Debbie. I'm not picking on you. You're just the only one who gave me your web address. So that, in a nutshell, to be honest with you, it's probably the quickest I've ever done it, is basic search engine optimization. Decide what your keywords are that you want to focus for. Thanks, Debbie. I'm glad you're not upset. So it's find what you want to be found for, go to your website and put it in those key places. And there's loads of other websites that will give you all the techie, nerdy stuff, like you should have lots of bullet points, shorter sentences, shorter paragraphs, so it's easy to read. But the basics are, I don't care how many pictures of flowers you've got on your website, like your homepage, I don't care whether you've got pictures of flowers on there, the word flowers only appears on this website once on this web page. So as Google, I would say this website, this page is not about flowers, which is bizarre because it's exactly what it is. So it's quite logical when you think about it. Try and get links coming into you as well. The number of links that come into your website from other websites is important. And I'll talk about that now, but just to show you, I've put the links there to the keyword planner. I'm going to send this on to Tyfu Cymru straight after this session so they can send you the slides, and also this video is going to be available as well. For those who think that I'm talking too fast, you'll be able to pause the video and make notes later on. And this tells you the different places where you should put those words that you've come up with. Building links. There's loads of places where you can go on and check and see how many links your website has got coming to it. But what you could do instead of that, potentially, is go and put one of your competitors' web addresses in there. So if you're jealous of your neighbor down the road or somebody who's seems to be doing quite well, or you just can't think who you could approach to get links, then what you could do instead is put their web address in one of these checkers, and it will come back and tell you who they've managed to work with to get links, what directories they're in, and that sort of stuff. So that's building links, really important. Email marketing, which I said is overlooked. Ultimately, social is important for having that conversation, but mainly when we're doing social media campaigns, our ultimate aim is to get people to sign up to an email, because I know that is where ultimately the sales are going to come from. It's where the power is in that. And I'd love to give you the stats of the company I work with, literally over the last 2 or 3 weeks, but it generated 5-figure sums from email marketing. And it's all relative to every scale of business, but it really did work, especially when you're not doing it before that. So email is 40 times more effective than social media at converting customers. MailChimp is the one most people use because it's free for less than 2,000 subscribers. Once you go over that, there's other ones out there, but it's a really good starting point. They'll do the pop-ups for you. The software will. And the basic principle is that you upload your email addresses, or they sign up from your website, and then you use MailChimp and the emails go out from there. Just a few little tips on composing those emails when you do get to do it, because if I see email marketing not working, it's normally because it hasn't been done quite right. And the main thing is this sort of thing here. Make sure you've got a call to action. Think about how you go through your emails. You go through, you look at them. If it's from a company you look at the subject. If the subject is weak, then you might not click it. And when you look at that email, you are scanning very quickly and then looking to click on something. You are not going to start at the top, read all the way through and click at the bottom. So get your points across really quickly. Get your points across really quickly, not clickly. And then everything should be clickable. Pictures, logos, links. Your aim is not to have people read your email, it's to get them to your website, because that's where they'll take the action. Use powerful subject lines. I've got some duplicate here on my slides. Apologies for that. It's because I've tried to condense everything. Use a question mark in the subject line. If you do that, then people will automatically pose that question to themselves subconsciously, whether they like it or not. So having a question mark in there really works. And the biggest one here, if you were to take nothing else away from today, is if you're going to do email marketing, you should resend it 24 hours later to those who didn't open it. And MailChimp lets you do that quite easily using their app. You just go on, look on your campaign, and it says this is how it's doing. And in the middle, it'll say, do you want to resend this email? to those who didn't open it, and you say yes, and then it's job done. That will sometimes bring in almost more engagement and inquiries than the first one, and yet so many people don't do it. People don't do it because they're worried their customers are going to be annoyed, but this is to people who didn't open it, so the chances are they didn't engage with the first one anyway. So it really is important to do that. Now, what I've missed out on here, in case anyone's got that 4-letter word in their mind, which is GDPR, what I've missed out from this is any details on GDPR. Happy to have a longer conversation with that in a different situation, but the basics of it are that you can email your customers, even if they didn't actually sign up to anything. As long as they're your customers, you have a legitimate interest in storing that data. And when you send an email, it's actually covered by a different act to GDPR, believe it or not, which says that you can promote related products or services to people who've bought from you in the past or used your services in the past. So you can email people, and it is a powerful thing to do. It should be part of your long-term strategy. Just a couple more bits now. In terms of the content marketing, what the basic thing to understand here is that and I love this the way of expressing content marketing, your potential customers, not your current ones who love you and they think you're amazing, your potential customers don't care about you, your products, or your services. Right now, because they're your potential customers, all they care about is that they have needs that want to be met. Very important. And 99% of the time, your potential customer's need is not to buy your product or service. And yet we bang out with these marketing messages, as I've said earlier, that you need to buy by the end of November. Why don't you have this special offer? And we try and scrape up that 1% of people that are ready to buy today. Whereas what you should actually do is focus on what your target audience is asking, looking for all of the time, or that other 99% of the time. Spend time creating useful information. Maybe you could make, I don't know, Christmas projects for children, making wreaths or whatever, I don't know, or things to collect on a walk for Christmas for kids. I think it's gonna, this is for Debbie's one, because that's all I've got on the screen, but basically something that you think your customers are looking for. And then you spend time and energy putting that in your blog and making sure that blog links to your different parts of your website. You put it on social media, but the first thing you do is definitely put it on your website, and then use your other marketing methods to get people to come and read that information. And when you do that and you make sure that the things you're writing, which could just be one page that you write on how to choose the best wedding flowers to match a dress or something, and I really am out of my depth now, but you write a guide that you know people are looking for, and then that will help you get found in the search engines for anyone looking for that phrase. And in addition to that, you're starting to put out the kind of content on your social and your emails that people want to engage with. And there's a little website hidden at the bottom of this slide, answerthepublic.com, which again makes its way into most of my courses, answerthepublic.com. Always scroll past this, man, unless you'd like looking at him. And I'm going to put in here, you just put any phrase in here, you can see some others that I've put in here already. And I'm just going to put out of interest, British flowers, and it might not work. You can only do 2 searches a day, so use them wisely, unless you want to pay a lot of money. And this will come back with a who, why, what, when, etc., related to the phrase that I'm going to put in at the top eventually. And there's not much in the way of results on this one, but people are looking for where to buy British flowers. What are native British flowers? So even on that theme, you might say, well, I'm going to make a page called What are Native British Flowers? And then you create that content. I'm trying to think of another one on here. And like I say, apply this to your own business. All I'm going on is what people are putting in the chat. And you might need to put a few words in before you actually get a really good answer. So this is slightly different. So this is people saying, how much, so when to order wedding flowers. So you might say, oh, I'll make a page then about that, about when to order wedding flowers. Because even though you might be targeting and selling, I'm doing British local flowers, by putting an article on there which helps people understand when to order wedding flowers, you start to attract people who want wedding flowers. And then your website or your email can start to help them. So I find this a really useful tool to give you many different ideas for social, but also for putting that content on your website. And the only final thing that I had on my slide, and I'm going to pause now and let you ask questions, and I may not have time to show you this, but is the Facebook side of things, and I talked about doing the remarketing within Facebook. So when you get that Facebook pixel, what I would encourage you to do is to not just do these boosted posts. So by all means do a post, boost it to a market, a certain group of people, but consider going into the ads manager and actually creating adverts that send traffic to your website on a regular basis. When you boost a post, you shouldn't really boost it for more than a couple of days. But if you go into the ads manager, which you'll find on the left-hand side, you can create an advert to send traffic to your website, which is based on, let me go now, I want to go on that one actually, which is targeting a specific group of people, specific age, specific area, whether you like flowers or flower range or whatever else that you're growing, and then run that advert for like £1, £2, £3 a day at the key times of the year. And it gives you much more control. And the aim with any kind of advertising like this is to not spend loads of money, is to find a really targeted audience, and then find an advert that will work, which is going to not cost you much money, but you can measure on your analytics as bringing in business to you, bringing in inquiries to you. So that, I think, is pretty much all of my presentation. I could keep talking, but so what I'd say is ask me any questions. You've got now this, or you'll get all these slides. I've got my Facebook ad stuff here as well. But I've tried to give you a bit of an overview because you can have extra support through the one-to-ones. I think most people are eligible for that. Don't quote me on that though. And that's where we can go into your business in more detail, but hopefully that has given you some ideas on what you could do with digital marketing. And if there's any questions, just drop them in the chat.
Great, thanks Eddie very much for another very informative training session. And as Eddie said, if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat box. And the details are there for Tyfu Cymru. Should you wish to contact us, please do so on either the email address or telephone number. If there's no more questions, we'll bring this training session to a close, and thank you very much for attending, and we wish you all the best.